What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. Yesterday, Nintendo announced and then just shadow dropped an update that I've been calling for quite some time, but wouldn't you know it, there's a catch to this Switch 2 upgrade, and we'll go over that here today. Also, we are going to be talking about massive backlash that Sony is facing right now after the recently announced shutdown of Bluepoint to where they're having a hard time just advertising any of their upcoming games. And the God of War Trilogy remake sparked all kinds of excitement online, and it seems we may have got some additional details from Christopher Judge through, we'll say, some questionable means, but we'll go over all of that and more. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if you're new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And of course, members for the channel do get Newswave early. If you would like to learn more about that, click the join button or link in the description down below. And we're going to start today with Ubisoft, as, well, we're going to talk a bit about the studio shutdown later, but here, Ubisoft did announce some layoffs for one studio that, now I'm becoming more and more concerned about because they're attached to Splinter Cell Remake. All right, we can see this over on VGC. Well, they say on Thursday, the publisher confirmed it's laying off around 40 employees, or about 8% of workers at Ubisoft Toronto studio, which is one of its largest studios. They've previously worked on Watch Dogs Legion, Far Cry 6, and currently they are attached to the Splinter Cell Remake project. Now, quote, "This decision was not taken lightly and does not in any way reflect the talent, dedication, or contributions of the individuals affected. Our priority now is to support them through this transition with comprehensive severance packages and robust career placement assistance." They do go on to try to, I guess, just alleviate concerns here about what's happening with the current project, saying a key contributor to several co-dev mandates and service teams, in addition to developing Splinter Cell's remake. Look, it's hard to take Ubisoft seriously right now in their current position. All I'm seeing is that the studio that's working on Splinter Cell Remake has gone through layoffs. That's not exactly building confidence around Splinter Cell Remake continuing. I mean, it is. Apparently, it's still in development right now, but the Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake was in development leading up to the Game Awards, and they were saying more next year until it wasn't, and then we started off 2026 just like a month later with it being canceled. So here's hoping Splinter Cell Remake doesn't go through the same thing. Also, we have some news for Bluey fans out there, and we can see this over on Gamatsu. They say story-driven adventure game Bluey's Quest for the Golden Pen will launch both physically and digitally for PS5, Xbox Series, Switch 2, PlayStation 4, Switch, PC through Steam on May 28th. Now, I'm not really sure how good this game is exactly. It's already out on iOS and Mac. That released December 11th, and then on Android, January 10th. And some of you may be like, wait, why are we going over this? Well, honestly, it's gonna depend on your situation. Some of you will say that. Others will say, oh, great, I'll write that down because I'm sure the kids will want to be able to play that game. Again, I'm not really sure how good the game is, whether it is or not, but I understand there are many Bluey families out there even that, hey, may want to play a game that's more set up for a younger audience than the younger kids, because it is harder to find games that aren't overly complicated, even through co-op, to try to walk them through it. Something like this is just nice to be able to have the family play together. So just wanted to point that out, coming later this year. Oh, and something else I want to point out, Resident Evil 9, which we already went over because it leaked out on the internet and someone was playing through it. Well, they've completed the game. They've gone through all kinds of stuff with it, and there are so many write-ups and spoilers online right now for the ending and the whole thing. Characters, like all of this. So, I just wanted to put this out there as a warning. Be careful, because I was even just scrolling through social media, like on Twitter X, and oh, there's a screenshot that I wish I hadn't seen, because it was definitely towards like the end of the game. Like just by chance scrolling through social media feeds. So again, watch out. It's unfortunate because we're a week out from it releasing. And look, when it releases, I'm going through it quick. And then I assume it's gonna be a game you're gonna play through multiple times, like other Resident Evil titles, but just wanted to put that out there. Watch out for spoilers, because they're just gonna pop up, I'm sure, all over the place. YouTube thumbnails, social media, who knows, but just putting that out there, be careful. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with a Switch 2 upgrade that I've been calling for a little while now, and it was very random to see it just pop up yesterday morning with Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition getting a Switch 2 version. And it was really cool when I saw this pop up, because like you can see, it's just it's just a message Nintendo just dropped over on X, and it says, join the fight for survival in Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, Nintendo Switch 2 Edition. That's quite the title there. Available now. So it's just an announcement and boom, it's released. And this has improved frame rates up to 4K resolution in TV mode, and they lifted the frame rate cap up to 60. Now, doesn't necessarily mean it's always 60 or always 4K, but that was the thing for me looking at it, is obviously this game can do so much more if it has the resolution and the frame rate lifted for the Switch 2, but it also appears they've gone in and updated some of the textures, and the game just looks a lot better now. I mean, really, really does. I picked it up right away because I just wanted to see what we were dealing with here, and immediately noticeable. By the way, now I'm going to go back to the game, and I was looking and oh yeah, I was 40 hours into this game, and it was unfortunate looking, I'll say, on the Switch 2 at that time. It was still, I was playing through on the Switch 1, but still, it's, you know, it could do so much more, and it can. So now, I mean, look, if you have not played this game before, you could just play it without playing any of the other Xenoblade games and get a kick out of it, and it looks great on the Switch 2. Here's the sticking point, of course, because there's got to be some kind of catch here, you know? Apparently it can't just be, oh, update, go ahead and download it with the game you already have. There's a fee, and it's $5. People are looking at this in two different ways. And one side, they're going, oh, it's only $5. That's nothing. I'll go ahead and pay that and just get the full upgrade on my Switch 2 edition for Xenoblade Chronicles X. And the other side is, it's only $5. Why is Nintendo charging at all then? Because look, this is the thing with Nintendo right now. Mixed signals. We just had Donkey Kong Country HD, or Donkey Kong Country Returns HD. That got just a free update that had more than this one. I mean, it had additional content that they threw in there, technically. This, right now with Chronicles X, is really just an improvement for resolution and frame rate. So people are, oh, they're moving the settings up, adjusting the toggles. Kind of. I mean, really, if you look at it and you do the update, people are saying on the eShop, it was a couple megabytes in size. Even though if you look at the file size difference, it is like a gigabyte or so if you go between one or the other with the Switch 2 edition. But the point is, it's not a substantial update in terms of additional content for the $5. And with other updates they've done, even around the time of launch of the Switch 2, it had people scratching their head as to why it's $5. So, I was thinking a bit more about this, and it's going to be something it's going to be hard to tell as to which ones Nintendo deemed to be free or which ones are $5. And I think we're going to see more and more of the $5 to $10 ones of just these updates for resolution and frame rate. And I think it kind of plays into what Sony said recently on their end, where rising RAM prices are going to be attempted to offset by way of monetizing the current install base further. The only difference with Nintendo is they're still trying to build that install base. So I don't think they're going to be too aggressive, whereas Sony can be because so many people already have a PS5. But I think for Nintendo, it might be stuff like this, where it's $5 to upgrade the resolution and the frame rate. Yes, for a Switch 1 game that you already bought, that may still be full price. Although Xenoblade Chronicles X, I noticed online, is on sale quite frequently, and even right now, I think on Amazon, it's $40 for the digital edition. So that and $45 is $15 less than what you'd normally see it just go for on the Switch 1. Still, the game is massive. I mean, you get a ton of time out of it. It's an awesome RPG experience, and it looks great on the Switch too. So I understand there are many people are going to go, that's $5. It's a great game. I'm going to get a ton of time at it. But again, concerns going forward here with Nintendo and their strategy and the way that they're viewing some of these updates that I feel like most of us were expecting to be free, because the games themselves don't really drop in price much at all with Nintendo. Next up, let's talk about Sony facing quite a bit of backlash online around a recent Shutdown announcement. Now, this we can see over on Jason Schreier's Blue Sky account, where he says, PlayStation is shutting down Bluepoint Games, the studio responsible for modern remakes of classic games such as Demon's Souls and Shadow of the Colossus. Bloomberg News has learned. A shocking end for a well-respected studio. It's actually the 20th anniversary coming up here this year for Bluepoint. They've done a lot. I did an entire video yesterday really going into this because I could go on and on for a while around this topic and where Sony sits now. Even though they're very successful as they've shown on paper, I do wonder if that's somewhat inflated based on the fact that they've fallen into the default console and they have a ton of money flowing through their storefront when it comes to the live service stuff that they themselves say really provide 50% of the purchasing and the revenue from that store. So the other half are for just a la carte games, including their first-party titles. So that's what I mean when I go, if either they faced more or stiffer competition from Microsoft, if they're facing Xbox 360 days Microsoft, or if things like Fortnite weren't around, I do wonder how Sony would be faring right now. But hey, currently they're doing well. However, Bluepoint is an interesting situation because they seem to get caught up in this weird live service push with Sony, and that's completely out of their wheelhouse. Now, with this, of course, people aren't happy because Bluepoint was looked at as, oh, they're going to do some awesome remakes now that they're under Sony. I mean, they just came off of Demon's Souls, which helped to launch the PS5. Sony buys them, and people are calling for them to do things like Legend of Dragoon, remake that. That'd have been kind of cool. But now, Bluepoint, well, they're shut down. Okay, so we do have some additional information here from, looks like Herman Hulst with an email that went out. And if you read through the email, it is a lot of, hey, we're going to pump up PlayStation Studios about, yes, how great they're doing, how good their lineup looks coming up here, but then also explain the fiscal reality, apparently, of the situation for a company that's making more money than they ever have. In fact, according to Sony, at all the generation up previous to this, PS1, 2, 3, and 4, and the PS5 generations made more money than all of that. Anyway, Bluepoint Games is being shut down, and here's just a little section from that email from Herman Hulst, where he says, we're operating in an increasingly challenging industry environment. Rising development costs, slowed industry growth, changing player behavior, and broader economic headwinds are making it harder to build games sustainably. So it seemed like Bluepoint didn't have a game figured out that they wanted to pitch or something they could get greenlit. And I don't know if it was them going back and forth with Sony and Herman Hulst and Ashino. It just wasn't working out, apparently. And with that in mind, they said, hey, look, it's been a year. We're shutting this thing down. Which is also a shame because if Bluepoint had stayed independent, they probably would still be around right now. Yeah, still doing remasters, remakes, and ports. But as Sony has gone along yesterday, they were attempting to do things like advertise Marathon, which we do have next weekend with their network test that they're going to do. And then it's going to roll directly into the release. Well, if you look at the comments of this promo, for example, over on their X account, people are just berating them. It's like, open up Bluepoint. What are you doing? You're doing Marathon and not Bluepoint? Why don't you get rid of Marathon and bring back Bluepoint? Don't the Bluepoint games have anything they can do? What do you have to say, Fears? I mean, it is just never ending. Like, it is more than 1,000 replies to, I would say, an advertise or a message that Sony would have put out on this platform that would have gotten like a third of that, if that, in terms of comments. All right. So Sony's going through it right now with this, and there's just a lot of questions around the way that they're managing PlayStation Studios right now. The Bluepoint closure certainly hits hard, and I don't know if they're going to say much. I honestly think they're just going to move on from this and keep rolling because, let's face it, the Fortnite bucks, it's not really drying up right now. Next up, let's talk about God of War Trilogy Remake. People were very, very excited about this, myself included, when it was announced, because look, the Greek saga was awesome, and I'm trying to think about how crazy those boss battles will be. What are they going to do here? Is it going to be 3 games or just one they'll mash together? Are they going to play around with the fighting style, the combat combat in with the visuals and even the perspective of the game? There's a lot of questions, right? Well, Christopher Judge, of course, doing a lot of meetups with fans and other like talking arrangements and stuff, did actually answer some questions. And well, he was not only filmed but also recorded, and it seemed like it was in kind of a sneaky way to where he didn't realize he's being recorded and was just having a conversation with a person who walked up at one of these events and was talking to him while he was at his panel or table or whatnot, where he does like the meet and greet. And well, we can see this. This is by Rebs Gaming who posted it up. And these are just a few quick notes that were taken from this conversation where the person, I guess, was wearing a wire. But it says, Kratos will be voiced by T.C. Carson in the remakes. Christopher won't be in it. Remakes will have new technology, fighting system, and content. New God of War from Santa Monica Studio will be announced in late summer. Naturally, this got people very, very excited. Like, wait a minute, another God of War game. And in the clip, you can see him say, hey, we're going to reveal our stuff, later on this summer. Now, he did kind of just in almost passing remarks talk about the remakes because, again, he's not part of that necessarily. So he may have talked with TC Carson or some of the other people that are working on it and just got some bits and pieces of information for it. So, I mean, the fighting system, the newer technology, obviously. I mean, the visuals have increased, mocap, all kinds of stuff with what even Santa Monica has learned since, say, God of War 3, but certainly God of War 1. And fighting system will be interesting. I kind of think what we're going to see is a hybrid even between God of War 2018 Ragnarok's perspective and then the zoomed out isometric perspective of the God of War 1, 2, 3, and so on there. And maybe it'll fall more in line with how, like that medium camera angle, like Horizon Forbidden West, where there are times where you're not like fully zoomed out from Aloy, but you're not also right up against Aloy like you would be with Kratos and God of War Ragnarok. I think it's going to be something similar to that. But that, again, there are a lot of questions still around how they're going to approach this. You rock the boat too much with a legendary franchise like that in the Greek saga, you could end up annoying people more than anything. Now, Christopher Judge did respond here as well. This was over on his X account saying, "Let me be crystal clear, I have zero involvement with the original games and what they involve, full stop. As much as I would love that everything I do in the future would involve Sony Santa Monica and God of War, I have other projects that I'm super excited about. More info this summer." So while he did again, talk a bit about the trilogy remake, it seems like he was also talking about just some of his own things that he's doing later on this summer. So not necessarily, hey, new God of War game is coming out this summer or being announced this summer, but that he has other things that could be games, could be other forms of media, who knows. Now, we have been hearing that Cory Barlog should have his game ready to be revealed this summer. And the leading theory right now is that it is a game that takes place in the God of War universe, but isn't with the typical characters, Kratos, Atreus, or anyone else. That it could just be kind of I guess a side story or just a new character that they introduce in that universe. So that would kind of still be a God of War game. Still, we have to wait and see for what Cory Barlog has when they're ready to show it. But yeah, I mean, God of War remake trilogy is going to be an interesting one to keep up to date on, but it's going to be a bit. Again, I think we're still multiple years, 2 or 3 years out from this thing coming out, so we still got some time. And in our last bit of news, we do have some data coming out from Japan around Mario Tennis Fever and how it did in its opening week, and it doesn't look good. So we can see this. Now this is over on Install Base Forum citing Media Create sales with the top 10. But again, I really wanted to focus in here on Mario Tennis Fever debuting at 39,522 copies. When compared to previous first weeks for Mario Tennis games, they had a comparison there on Install Base Forums, and it doesn't look good. I mean, you have to go, and I'm not even kidding, you have to go to Mario Tennis on the Virtual Boy to find a Mario Tennis game that did worse than this one. It seems like all the others actually did worse at launch, and that does include Mario Tennis Ultra Smash on the Wii U, or Mario Tennis Open on the 3DS, or I mean, you could even say Mario Tennis Power Tour on the Game Boy Advance. So now questions naturally, what's going on here? Why did Mario Tennis Fever perform so poorly at launch in Japan? Well, I mean, we don't have the digital sales, so I mean, you could look at it as saying Japan does tend to lean more towards even physical media. So add another 50% in, that's at least better, but it's still a drop off from Mario Tennis Aces, which in 2018, if you compare Switch 1 install size to Switch 2, it's basically the same. So you can kind of throw that maybe excuse out the window. I honestly think Mario Tennis Fever is just, people looked at it, it's $70 and they have Aces and they're fine with that. It was kind of weird for me to see Mario Tennis Aces and then get Mario Tennis Fever like right away in the Switch 2 generation from Camelot. I do think the better option would have been Mario Baseball. I think it at least would have done better than Mario Tennis Fever just because it's different. It probably still would have done incredible in Japan, but I do think it would have done better worldwide even, which we'll wait to see numbers from Mario Tennis Fever on that one. But I think it really just comes down to, it's an expensive Mario Tennis game. We already had Mario Tennis that does still work on the Switch 2 backwards compatible, and it's good enough. So that's kind of where we are with Mario Tennis Fever. It wasn't a game that came out and was a gotta have it title. It's a fun game, but is it a game that goes, oh, well, obviously this is the Switch 2 game I need to get? Not necessarily, and it's kind of showing in the sales right now. And before we go to the comment of the day, we'll take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I ask, which God of War era do you like more? The Greek era actually took the lead here, 59%, versus the Norse era, that was 41%. And I will say, so God of War 1 was super impressive when it came out on the PS2, but I think God of War 2 is the one, believe it or not, out of those 3 titles that I had pointed out here for the Greek saga, the number ones, God of War 2 is certainly the one that sticks out to me because it was right there still alongside of the Xbox 360. And I'm looking at the PS2 and I'm going, how is it doing this with God of War 2? I mean, it's just an incredible game then. It still is now. Still is a great game. But I will say God of War 2018, just because of how much the franchise shifted with that title. I mean, that one's impressive. Might be one of the most impressive just to see in that big reveal. So that one does kind of stick up there. But I will say, going back to the Greek saga after playing 2018 and then Ragnarok, I mean, that one will hit you in the face pretty well. That is certainly like, oh yeah, that's right. This is God of War. This is actually Kratos. Whereas, you got the more reserved, older Kratos in 2018 and Ragnarok. Not that they were bad games, but man, something about that Greek saga hits a lot different. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This is from Hawk, who says, there's no way the Duskbloods drops with a month of build-up and marketing when we know so little about the game. It's just a placeholder day. I would agree, because I thought about this a little more. There's more money to be made with the Duskbloods than just the game. I mean, I'm thinking, we'll see, but I'm thinking maybe at least a special edition Pro Controller. We're getting one for Resident Evil Requiem, so why not that? I don't know if they're doing an amiibo for it, but maybe. But even though this is a new IP, it's FromSoft, so people are immediately relating it to things like Bloodborne or other Souls games because of the FromSoft pedigree. So I think just that alone will obviously have people buying a Switch 2 to play the game, but also you might have people go, well, I also want to get a Pro Controller for this game because I don't want to use the Joy-Cons with the travel and those sticks for something like a Souls game where it's going to get really, really intense with some of these battles. Yeah, I'll pick up the Pro Controller. Maybe they'll do a whole special edition system. I'm just thinking there are many avenues that they may want to market leading up to release, and it might even make sense for them to do like a full direct just around the Duskbloods, because I really do think it has that kind of power to move systems. Nintendo should really take advantage of it and put a huge spotlight on it for 2026. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about here today. If you missed yesterday's Newswave, I'll leave it up here in a card, or maybe you want to hear more about the whole Bluepoint shutdown that was reported yesterday, and honestly, me just questioning Hermen Holtz in general within PlayStation. I have a video on that and I'll leave it right below. Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.